to AJ Jones, and we're back to Birds of a Feather, but this time 5 questions. Once again, I'm revisiting my favorite little quiz show with people that I know maybe don't know a lot of, but want to know a lot more of. And I'm bringing someone who's close to me because he works at the same job, my day job, downtown in Philly, and someone who I've learned a lot about sports and a lot about meditation, as we both have
Right.
explored both areas. So, welcome, my coworker, Matt. What's up, Matt?
How are you, AJ? Thank you for having me on. And I will say that it is quite an honor. I watched your 5 questions with Ryan, and I watched your 5 questions with Mickey yesterday to try and prepare for what was coming next. And I mean, those are actual. I mean, I'm just a citizen out in the world by comparison. You know, you radio personalities and television folks and all that. So I'm honored.
Well, that's good. I also like to have people that I actually work with, if not have made time, because I was just out with another
Sure.
former coworker of mine, and I told her, I'm like, I know how you are about being on video, so if you want to try it, I said, let me know. So thank you for, not objecting and playing along. And
Sure.
like I told you, 5 questions. Sometimes it can be more, sometimes it be less, depending on how the flow is. So I'm just gonna throw the first one at you, as 5 questions are
Okay.
never planned. Um, but my first question I definitely want to throw to you is, who is your favorite sports hero and why?
Well, I did ponder this a little bit, of course, and they have changed over the years. I mean, I kind of feel like I'll sort of go in order here, I would say. Um, and maybe I'll preface the whole thing here by saying, we will talk some sports today. I am actually, and as the meditation folks know, right? I'm in every room and every
Yeah.
time. You never know where I'm going to show up, right?
Right.
And here again, here you probably don't know where I am. I'm actually visiting my parents in Gettysburg this week. So it didn't look like this, but this is literally the room where I spent a lot of my time as a kid, listening to sports, playing various sports games, not going out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I won't have any dating advice like with I think it was the Ryans. But, well, that plus it's been, like I said, it stops in 2003, so I'm not going to be very helpful when we get to that part of the conversation.
Right.
But so this is a totally different thing. So so I'm in the mindset of starting from the beginning almost with any of these sports questions. So I think maybe I'll do that. My first hero was easily Willie Stargell, and I'm a Pirates fan, as you and I know from our
Happy.
meditation conversations.
Yes.
I'm a baseball guy first, and I was a Pirates guy. The first game I ever went to was in 1979, actually, when they won the title. I guess I was still 5 years old at the time. So that can have a very galvanizing, that can be a very big experience for a kid. So, and of course they won the championship and he was the MVP and all that. And he was the main guy, the captain, handed out the stars on their ugly hats, and that whole thing. So he was really the first guy. He was really my first sports hero coming up. And then I would say, and then the next one was Dan Marino, and it's the Pittsburgh connection, obviously, again, for whatever reason, I had kind of evolved to college football and went with Pitt, and they were good, and he was there. And for some reason, like when you're in central Pennsylvania, when you're here, it's either you love Penn State and act like you went there, and maybe you did go there, but most people didn't, but they act like they do. And there's a small percentage that just can't deal with that. It drives you crazy. And there's sort of a backlash, anti-fandom. And that's where I am and was.
Right.
So, back in those days, Pitt, Penn State, and Dan Marino and all that. And then, he went to the Dolphins, and I basically made me a Dolphins fan out of geography
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. But so, I was a kid and I loved Dan Marino. Um, but probably the biggest one, as I was thinking through this question, was probably Mario Lemieux,
Yeah.
because I jumped to
Is that
became
hockey?
a hockey fan, became a hockey fan in the late '80s. Picked up the Penguins right before they got really really good, and he was the man. He was the man. He was the captain and all that sort of stuff. So I think in those years, I mean, having a sports hero is an interesting
Yeah.
concept. I feel like it's more. you're younger than all the athletes. There's a certain, they are the sports heroes. And I was trying to think of it in the context now. I mean, there is nobody. I mean, Jaromir Jagr was maybe the last athlete that was older than me playing in the four major sports, and he's gone now. So it's like that's it. Maybe Adam Vinatieri.
Mm.
So you're on the other side of it. They're all just kids.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I
It's
mean,
not the
do I
same
have?
reverence. There's
It's
no.
not the same reverence. It's you've lived and you sort of know how it goes. Um, but I would say without a doubt, my favorite superstar, main guy is Joel Embiid.
Of course.
Um, I think that's pretty simple. I think I mean, we're going to rank the teams here in a second, and the Sixers are the ones I root for the most passionately at this point. So, best player on the favorite team, I think there's no doubt. Plus his journey, plus it was easy, as you know, as a Sixer fan, to be invested in almost the contrarian take, right? For those first 2 years when he was hurt. Why did they pick him? He was never going to play. And right, we all dug in
Yep.
and he was our guy, right? We really defended him and all that. And it's great to see him be great, but not hero, like I said, not hero in the same way. I think when I was a kid, it was really sort of that Pittsburgh trio.
I understand because I mean Joel's presence is bigger than life, especially now that, like you said, we've gone through the process with him. So now we've seen the potential of what he can do. Now he just needs a surrounding cast of characters that actually care and want to play for him. So
I
I,
thought we agreed no Ben Simmons talk
I
here,
know
right?
we're not. Nope,
Or
nope.
did we agree a lot of Ben Simmons talk? I can't
Yes,
remember.
nope. After
But
even after I talked about him, I was like, nope, that means
right,
nothing to me right now. We're not gonna. We're just gonna
right,
dance around it. But moving on
yeah.
to
But
another
you can,
topic.
yeah, but you can see him as, I mean, he is that guy to the 9-year-olds
Yeah,
of the world now, right?
absolutely.
Like
Yeah,
he's that guy. He is the Willie Stargell, Dan Marino,
yeah.
Marilyn Mew, larger than life, literally.
Literally
And
larger than life, and then the fact that his
yep,
personality is out there and he's accessible, and I think that's what makes him extra charming is that he's not afraid of the fans,
right,
to the degree that he can play with them as well as be thankful for him. So it's a
yep,
wonderful thing. But moving on to another question now,
yep.
what is your favorite pastime or hobby, or what do you find yourself getting into more, especially after quarantine and everything?
Well, I'm pondering this one as well. I would say the most honest answer is that I'm in the phase of life where there's not much time for, or I don't generally make time or cut out time for true pastimes and hobbies, as much as maybe I used to, thinking it through. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't golf, which is, I'm like, white collar business guy that doesn't golf, which puts me behind, it's
Rare.
so I'm in a rare, right. I'm a rare breed. I hate it. I think I tried to golf one summer and, I was shooting in the 140s or something and, picking up all the time. I hate it.
Yeah,
I never, traumatic. I never got over it.
yeah.
Um, but like I don't, I mean, I don't collect things and I don't, that's okay. I, mean, I
Oh,
don't, yeah, I don't collect things or do that kind of stuff. I mean, I read, I try and read every now and when I can.
mm-hmm.
And meditation, I think, and I imagine we'll probably talk about that at some point, is less a hobby than almost like a necessary
A
activity. I mean,
lifestyle.
right. I mean, that's almost a lifestyle, like waking up and working out and
Yes.
that sort of thing. So as far as like, yeah, I'm, taking a pause from that. I think that's probably, yeah, the best way I would say that. I mean, it's, you listen to music as a hobby, you read books as a
Yeah, yeah,
hobby.
yeah.
If I would say those are the closest things, and I definitely, and I try and make time for that.
Yeah, it's
Try and
funny
make
because
time for that.
I'm with you on that because I remember someone asked me what my hobby was and I was like, hobby? What are hobbies? I thought about
Right,
that one time because
right,
I was thinking about it and I'm like, I don't really. I mean, everything I do is pretty much, I guess, a hobby in the sense that I'm always watching sports. I'm always writing in my journal, or I'm always, practicing my voice acting.
right,
Whatever. So I guess that's been my lesson. But
right. I guess it's how you. Right. How do you define our sports fandom, for example, right? Is
exactly,
that a
or
hobby?
is
I
it
guess
more
it
my
I guess it
hustle?
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is, probably the easiest answer. Because right, there's podcasts, take time to listen to podcasts about the NBA and that sort of thing and follow along and watch when you can and that kind of stuff. So Right. I guess that's sort of been the thing. But yeah, like I said, a little bit of reading, a
Hmm.
little bit of music. But
Have you
but yeah, it's
since everything? Any
I'm
concerts?
saying, say again.
Any concerts you've gone to, or even in
I
your
haven't, well, with COVID and all that. So I probably haven't been to I haven't been to a show since I went to see Radiohead at the Wells Fargo Center with John Machera,
hmm
and it was their last. I think it's their last show that they've done in like 3 years or whatever. They were wrapping up
Gotcha.
their tour, and so that's probably been the last time I've been out and about, and that actually that's been great because my daughter's been getting into them, so now she thinks that's like the greatest thing here. But
Bonding.
yes, exactly.
I know.
But yeah, hobbies, yeah, it's hard to say, but yes, yeah,
I've been bonding with the idea of going back to concerts very hesitantly, but then I just bought tickets to JoJo, who's this pop singer from early 2000s, and she's way grown and mature now, and I really like the new vibe she's got going. And so me and a fellow tweeter friend of mine, Shantae, who I'm gonna probably recap 5 questions with soon.
hmm
Me and her and I are going to that show, and that's literally on the 5th, just before I leave for vacation. So yeah, it'll be my first concert in a while, and it's
right,
probably gonna be weird, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, as long as I don't have to stand near all these people, I'm good. You know what I mean? Like, if there's a way to
right,
kind of just kick it back, because it's right. It's I think it's at Underground Arts, right on Callow Hill. So I think you can kind of space out down there because it's almost like a basement type of
oh, okay,
so
yeah, I don't know if I've ever been over there.
yeah, it's nice. I mean, every now and then they have exhibits. Some friends of mine who are artists and dancers, they sometimes do their shows there. So yeah, but yeah, you're right. I mean, at this point now, like you said, it's got to be well thought out how they do it, how they set it up, because it's just we're clearly not out of the woods yet with this whole
Yeah, we're still, yeah, we're still, it should be, but it's not, not
it's
quite.
not. I mean, they're never gonna really go full blast into quarantine again because they realize like economically it wasn't helping everybody. So
Yeah, I agree with
you
that.
know. So speaking of which, my first question originally was from 2020 to 2021 so far. What have you learned more about yourself in this pandemic time?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I'm almost glad we didn't lead off. It's good to get
It's
warmed
like it's
up a little bit as I
depressing.
was pondering getting the heavy ones. I would say that what I have found, and I think maybe the larger context of this comment is that, well, the larger context of this comment is that I have been very lucky. My family's been very lucky throughout the entire pandemic, extended family, the whole thing. And I will say that, nobody has been sick, knock on wood, but it's not, it's not the majority percentage of people that have been able to bunker down in their rooms and work online and, and have that, and be able to be there when the kids are,
Yeah.
working, when they were on the Zoom class and that kind of stuff. So we've been, my wife and I and the two kids here, we've been very fortunate the whole time.
hmm
So, I think that's the context of it. And I think the other part is that given that, I really thought that, things were going okay for a while. And I really felt like just kind of like mentally and, having enough mental energy and emotional energy to kind of get through just the craziness of it all and everything being thrown off, even just the logistics. I mean, you're home every day. Am I upstairs? Am I downstairs? Are the kids here? Are they at school today? A million things. Um, but it's gone on long enough that it's kind of sort of, it even has gotten to me like even sort of, where I might I've had some optimism or just kind of some stoicism. Even it's like I had hit some moments here in 2021 in the summer, and then Delta, right? So it's like it seems like we're out of it, we're vaccinated, and then just like I can't believe we're thinking about all this stuff again.
Yeah.
So I and but so that I think has been part of it. And in terms of myself, I mean, I would say it's probably uh, that not that that not progress isn't they say like progress isn't always linear sometimes,
Yeah.
and I feel like my progress and some things that I had worked on in the past that brought me to meditation years ago, um, we're starting to crop up again here in the summertime and just throughout the pandemic. And you have to kind of not accept it, but you have to sort of go easy on yourself if that progress is not linear. I think is maybe the best way to sort of say it, not too specifically. And I think I found myself in some spots, like I said, that were sort of cropping up again, and it's like from day to day, sometimes it's like, come on, man, like get over it. And then other days it's like, this really is unprecedented and crazy. Like, give yourself a break.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So it's like I
You
have
learn patience with
swung back.
yourself, like patience and resilience.
Right, right. I mean, we'll say it, right? We'll say it in our, in our sessions sometimes. It's just that if you're not going to go easy on yourself, no one else is.
No.
So you have to, some of these times, and it's easy to forget
Yeah.
just how insane this is,
Mm-hmm.
that, no one has lived a pandemic in 100 years,
Right.
for example, in the context of modern life. But so I think what I've learned about myself is that yeah, it's not a straight line, and you got to give yourself. I've needed to give myself room to you know go backwards a little bit, like the glacier there, and reset, and just kind of go through that from an emotional standpoint. And we're not out of it yet, but I think I don't know. I mean, I hope we're getting there. I hope we're
Definitely.
getting
I
there.
mean, we have no choice but to progress, and I think that reset
Right,
is
that's
the
true.
word.
That's true.
And a lot of people feel the need to have to want to participate in trying to get that process going. Whether, like I said, I'm glad we continue to do the meditation group even and working from home, because that was probably the one thing that probably was going to make it easier to deal with it for those who didn't want to be home every day. You know what I mean? And folks like myself who just get so scrambled. I always call it scrambled egg syndrome in my brain, that I settle down, some days, and just allow the chill to just take over, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but I agree with you. I think that reset is just something that everyone has to learn how to do, because even if everything you're trying to push against it doesn't work, it's almost like the universe is telling you to, no, 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 you're going to have
Right.
to rethink this. No matter how you try to fight it, you're going to have to go back
Right.
and rethink it. So
Yeah.
that is good. But all right, so jumping around, I want to go to, what did you aspire to be when you were younger? Did you ever want to be in athletics, or did you always see yourself kind of doing something else random that you didn't even pursue as you got older?
Definitely the former, as you can imagine. I mean, I think there was no. I mean, the first thing was to be a Major League Baseball player.
Mm.
And I was probably on that track until I was about 9 years old. I think I was on that trajectory until I was 9 or 10.
Mm-hmm.
I joke, but and then it sort of catches up with you. You need to have wrists that are probably 3 times the size that I ended up with. So
That's like
just
bragging
to be honest,
rights. I
to be
wasn't
honest about it.
physical.
But what's that?
You were like, I wasn't quite the physical specimen.
Right. It just yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta own up to that. But I played and baseball was always first, and I played that from 8 years old to through high school. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was really, but in concert with that, I mean, it was really to be the play-by-play voice of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, when I was a kid coming up. So it's like, you'd watch or you'd listen. And then, I mean, I don't know if, like if I say Stratomatic or APBA or these tabletop baseball sports games, do you have any idea what I'm talking about? It's kind of niche,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but probably most sports folks, or like electric football. I mean, that's a pretty deep
Yeah,
cut for
yeah,
like,
yep, yep.
like the with the board and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So like, I had, one of those when I was 5. I got had electric, when I was 8, and I had various board games. And later when I was a teenager, the ones where you simulate the tabletop stuff, as you can, right? There's no shock there, I'm sure. Um, and you'd play them, and then you'd announce them along with the stuff. So I can't even imagine what it, well, I can't imagine what it sounded like from outside the door. But I'd be right there calling the whole game, and listen to various folks. It was never but it was never like a serious pursuit. as far as like I never like tried to get into Newhouse at
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse or any of that kind of stuff. I mean, it was more, just sort of a fun kind of thing. And but I ended up in sports. And maybe I mean, do you know this? Like, if I don't know who I've told and who I have, I don't know who knows like
No, this is this
the
this is the
story of
reveal. This is what I wanted you to say.
okay, there you go. Right. That's interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, so I went to college. I went to Muhlenberg College in Allentown. It was, pretty a small place, but I went there for 4 years. And I got a math degree, of course, since we both work in math. And then I went to Virginia for 2 years and got a master's degree because I really just didn't want to get a job yet. And I
Mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to go and be a grad student and do some of that sort of stuff. And then I got out of there and I wanted to, well, actually, the real story is that I wanted to leave after 1 year of graduate school because I had kind of burned out on it. And I had no plan other than I had heard some like Connecticut School of Broadcasting commercials on WFAN like late at night.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the sum total of my plan was to get information
Mm-hmm.
and do something, which I got talked out of, which actually ended up being the right be in the in the right thing. Now, when I was in college, it was it's a small school, but we had sports, and I had the opportunity to call games on the radio. I had the opportunity
Yeah.
to do
On a
football and
station.
basketball on the local college station there in Allentown, which was nice. Like that was kind of a way to get out of the
Yeah.
system. I wrote for that newspaper. I wrote for my local newspaper here in Gettysburg for 4 summers. So I did a little bit of all those kind of things.
Mm.
But when I got out of graduate school and still didn't really have a direction in mind, and not even like actuarial, although folks had mentioned it, but I ended up coming back to that later. Just happened to fell into a job as the sports information director at Elizabethtown College in
Mm.
Lancaster County,
Mm-hmm.
Division III school, and yeah, and did that for 8.5 years. Did that for 2 years there. Came back, did it at Gettysburg College for 6.5 years. Did it for 2 years there, 6.5 years at Gettysburg College, and really until I met my wife, got married. We were going to start a family, and it was like it's it's a young person's, it's a 20-something's job,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it's fun. It's you're watching sports all day and night and weekends, and you're getting paid peanuts, and so it's really,
Yeah.
people do it. I mean, there are career folks in it. A lot of great folks are in it
Mm-hmm.
for a career, but I was sort of at a juncture and had the math in the back pocket and with actuarial at the time, which was nice. It's like you can take exams, right, and study and kind of study your way into
Gotcha.
possibly a job. So I made the left turn there really after 8.5 years. And sports info is the PR side of things. So it's the in the background. It's when the announcer says, "Oh, that's the 15th game in a row that he's scored
Yeah.
15 points with 10 rebounds," right? Someone's in the background,
Searching.
you
Yeah.
know, right, feeding them that, and that's the sports information folks
Cool.
doing that kind of thing. Among other things, it was the dawn of the internet. I think we did a sports score update phone line that this was 20 years ago,
Yeah, you
right? So
always
it's
act
like
like that sounds so
right,
dated, but yeah.
right, so it's like the Gettysburg Bullets sports hotline. Here's the thing. Here's the score for September 8th or what,
Oh my God.
which is crazy.
Movie prop.
So yeah, we were faxing stuff to the AP. I mean, that's where we were.
Nice.
And now every game, every division is online
Right.
live. It's nuts. But so I had a career in sports, which was nice. And I think it was good because it scratched the itch, and
Mm-hmm.
I've always been able to say, like, well, I had my dream job for a while and I did it. It was great. And
Oh.
then moved on to this. And so I've been doing actuarial for 15, 16 years. I guess it'll be 16 years in January, and I have no idea what the question was, AJ. Where did we start with that? Honestly, I
No,
don't
it
even.
was just it was a
Was it the it was it
desire
was
to.
the broadcasting thing? It was the broadcasting, and that's right.
That's
So
perfect.
I was able to get that's it. So I was able to get some of the sports career
Yeah.
in
No,
there,
that's
and
awesome.
always kind of have that. But otherwise, I mean, I am a frustrated broadcaster for decades and decades, which is why when you would stop by, if
That's what
you
we have in
you
common.
stop by.
We're both like
right, exactly. That's what we have in common. And it's sort of, I think I have many. And with the rise of the podcasting thing here in the last,
You see.
10 years, it's been interesting. But, mainly it's now, Anthony, when we were in the office, right? Anthony would stop by and, we would give our takes back and forth and then get it out of our systems and go about our day. So
Exactly.
that's kind of where I am now, except for the 5 or 10 minutes that we have before we actually get to meditating, right? If something needs to be debated.
I know.
So,
With
but yes, yes,
Maria,
play by play.
you'd be in the ref in the middle and be like, "Oh God, here they go again." Right over
Right,
the seasons. Hi, Maria. But yeah, no. I mean,
right.
that's basically I'm with you. I mean, I've been aspiring to do a lot of things in my life, but it's like as you
Mhm.
said, life sometimes take over, and you're not able to give it the laser focus that you want to. But it's still in you, and like you said, hot taking with people in work on emails every now and then is fun because, like you said, it gets it out. But you got to actually
Right,
be in that realm. I mean, the most I got close to it was just being in the studio. When times I've tried to get a job at one of the local radio stations, and you
right,
know, never getting in there, but at least being able to sit in on some shows. I've gotten to sit in with not Mike Vasili. Was I got to sit in with somebody's show. I got to sit in one time with the guy's show who was basically there for only like literally a blip. They gave him like a 1 hour, not even 1 hour. It was half an hour show, and he let me sit in because he used to be on Saturdays where Tyrone is in the mornings now, but I mean the
right.
afternoon, Saturdays in the morning. And that was my first time sitting in a radio studio, so it was really fun. And little things like that, but I've never gotten the chance to really actually work it. It's really like you said, it is a
Yep.
young person's game. I mean, they're not going to hire
It's
you.
a tough. I mean, it is I mean, everybody wants to be in it, right? I mean, it's just everybody wants to be in it, and it's yeah. So you can be really, they can be picky, and you got to intern and scrap it and all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
Understand.
you've got great. I mean, you have, seems like you have some really excellent connections, and you know, and I would just want to say that, and
Yeah.
I've told you this, and I've told you this before, but like you are 99th percentile of radio callers
Yeah.
easily, easily, and that's, I mean, that's look, and trust me, I've listened to decades of sports radio, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like, I know, but and you can tell. I mean, you can tell when it's, the times I've heard you call in with Mike Missinelli. I mean, you can tell that he respects you
Mhm.
and that you have a rapport and it's a real rapport because you can tell when guys call in and there isn't one and it's just
Yeah.
like, all right, you made it through, that's fine, you have a take, I'll give you a minute and a half, but like, or whatever, and you guys go back, which is great, but I mean, it's you're good at it, and it would seem as though any old person would think that they could just, oh, I'll just call them up and I'll give my hot take, and I hear it in my mind a certain way, so I'm sure I'm going to be great, but it doesn't work that
No, it
way.
does
It
no, but
doesn't work that way.
I notice when I crack up because I. This is how I always tell myself. I'm like, okay, you need to get a life because I'll be sitting there rating callers sometimes, watching, listening to the shows while I'm working online. And I'd be like, that was a dumb
Yeah.
call. Why did he do that? And because I'm such a loyal Mike fan since days when he was at WIP, I used to always say like, there's a certain rapport that you got to have with him in order for him to keep you on for longer than a minute. Because back in the day,
Right.
he was cutting people off and hanging up on them, and
Right.
I think eventually they took that away from him because they felt like it was limiting. Because there were some callers that just got a little too overzealous and stuff. So
Right.
it got to the point where it was just getting a little bit too combative. But I think that there are people that still today I listen to that I'm like, yeah, could have really cut that off within a
Right.
call.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, but I find myself rating callers, and now Tyrone, shout out to Club Tyrone. Tyrone will always say it's caller on caller crime, and I always say, well, I mean, when you call and you listen as a true fanatic listener, you're
Right.
going to rate each other's calls. Like sit there and go, why the hell would they call for that? And then
Yeah.
so yeah, you're right. I mean, you would think I have connections, but I think I'm just admired from afar. But trust me, if I had connections, I told him, I said, I am willing to do the very minimum just to be in the presence,
Sure.
of it.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It's not exactly a guaranteed gig, and at my age too, it's like no one's hiring no 40 plus intern, to do that stuff unless they definitely got a job. So I
Right.
wouldn't even do that unless it was something that was marketable, but it's hard, like you said. I mean, if this was me 20 years ago, maybe, but 20 years ago,
Sure.
like I didn't even know what I was doing. And it's funny how things in life come to you at a weird time, but you know, it at the end of the day, it's like if you're determined to do what you got to do, it'll get done somehow. Um, there's a lot of people who don't know what they want to do in life until after 30 or whatever, and they're not
Oh,
sure,
sure,
they're
sure.
not confident. So some stuff just finds you. Like you said, you had your opportunity, and I've had glimpses, but I haven't really say I've actually worked in radio yet. But I mean, like you said, if there wasn't anything called a podcast, I wouldn't feel that I was even close to that goal, and
Right.
then the voice acting things came. So, but as you know, me being a fan of sports, I always have my crushes. So I wanted to know if you had a crush. If not, feeling like you're cheating on the wife when you don't have. I mean, everyone still has people that they loved or always, or even current people. I mean,
Mhm.
with social media, it's kind of hard to not see through some of the obvious answers. But did you ever have anybody that you had a crush on or still do? And famous or not famous, I guess I should say. But
Yeah. Well, I had to think long and hard about this. I need to come up with a, you know,
yeah.
think twice, think hard about something like that. I think I would say this. I think a safe answer for a man in my situation is the British ladies of Peloton. I think maybe that's the safe answer. That I will say that, and because my wife would know that, she would absolutely know that because those are the ones I tend to. We got a bike. I guess it was in November, December, somewhere around there.
Uh-huh.
And you can look at my stats. Who I ride with the most, and it tends to be the Leanne and who's Leanne and Hannah. So I would say I would,
I love that
that
answer.
that would be the answer that would not, you know, make me, end with me calling the lawyers.
That is
Because
hilarious.
when I read that, I thought, oh man, I hope that's just a bonus, and maybe I'm gonna stall until we get out of the window here. She has to wrap it up, but
Oh my god, that's so funny because all I kept thinking about was like I was like the British, and then I realized I'm like, oh, Peloton on the back. I was like,
I don't know if you know. Yeah, I mean, like it's
yeah, because I just I know what Peloton is, but for some reason, as in my head, I'm thinking it was going to be sports related. So I was like, oh wait, is Peloton a new sport? I'm like, and I don't know.
I don't know, but yes, yeah, sports related. I don't. Yeah, sports related. I don't know. I didn't pre-think it, so
Yeah, yeah, no,
I'll
it's
probably
fine.
just leave it there.
You know me. I most of my crushes are pretty much still the same. It's usually either like a tight end or it's a quarterback. But I've been sticking with my tight ends, just like I said in my last pod with Ryan. It's like
Hmm.
funny how some of the tight ends are always to me the most attractive on the football team, but sometimes they're not always the most. They're not always the most consistent talent, But I still love Hall of Famer Tony Gonzalez. I love when he's on one of those panel boards. He's just very hard not to look at. But yeah, you're right. That was a very classic answer. But rolling back to when we say ranking teams now. So if we're going and not, I don't know
Yep.
if you're into the union or whatever. So I never really count them as the Fab Four. So I would
Right.
say, out of your four teams, how would you rank each team and why?
Well, Philadelphia is easy.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia is easy because I have sort of this split personality, bringing a couple of the Pittsburgh teams,
Yeah.
along throughout my history. So it is easily Sixers, Eagles, Phillies, and Flyers.
Right.
And Sixers because they're legitimately, there was never a Pittsburgh basketball team and all that. So I fell in with them, um, I made a conscious choice to start following them right around the time we moved out here to the Philly suburbs, which was in 2006. But it was my brother moved to Boston in the mid and late 90s after he graduated from college, and he is a massive Celtic fan. He became a massive Celtic fan, even before the big three and
Mm-hmm.
all that. So even late 90s, Paul Pierce and Antoine Walker, like those
Yeah.
were his teams. And he's an interesting story because he couldn't have told you anything about anything. Like he fell off the sports wagon completely. Couldn't have told you like who the Super Bowl winner was, or whatever.
Yeah.
Moved up to Boston with friends, was in a band and all this kind of stuff. But then like came back, like took to the NBA. And to this day, I mean, we're back and forth on the texts, for the Celtics, Sixers, and all that, which you can imagine is not great for me because there has been no good news, all bad news,
I
with
wish we. I
with
wish we
that
could have
rivalry.
that. Yeah.
But so I think so. Right. So right around, I guess it was when they put the big three together, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna jump in on the NBA. I'm out here in Philly. I open up the Sports Illustrated. The last ranked team in the East were the Sixers. And this is, let's see, this is 07, 08, right?
Yeah.
So it's
That was a bad
so
run.
they ended up making the playoffs, right? It was Andre Miller, a young Iguodala, a really young Lou Williams, Reggie Evans, Sam Dallenberg. Corver was on, but he got traded. Or he wasn't on that playoff
He got
team.
traded just for the start.
But it was post Iverson. I think Willie Green might have been the starting shooting guard, and they overachieved. And like it was just kind of fun to be like, oh, I'm just
Yeah, it
going to
was.
throw in with the Sixers here at the bottom of the elevator and
Yeah.
see what happens. So they ended up making the playoffs those next 2 years, right? And so we were just kind of off to the races there, and I took that, the energy that I can focus on a team that I have, like the teams that I mentioned there earlier, and just kind of went with them. So they have been number one, and then of course when the process happens, you
Yeah.
know, I'm the number one process hinky analytics. You had said on the other one of the podcasts, you said you're not a stats person, you're not a numbers person. You go with the feel and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I am the opposite, of course, as I mean, as you would imagine from an actuary and a guy with math degrees and
Yes.
coming up with
Well, you
statistics as a
read.
kid. I mean, that's how I learned math. So when you tell me that the analytics are supposed to work, that's fine. I'm with it. But also, and I will not go into a 6 hour process spiel. I promised myself I would not go into a 6 hour process spiel. But like, where else was that franchise going in 2012? I mean, anyone who is anti-process, here's my one take. I'll give you one take.
Go ahead.
Um, you got to give me an alternative history. You got to give me an alternative history with the team where Iguodala and Elton Brand are the best players on that team, right? Where they're the highest paid. They're the highest paid.
I
And
agree.
maybe Iggy doesn't get traded, right? You can say, all right, the Bynum stuff doesn't happen, but from 2012 you don't tear it down. Fine. If you're anti-process, tell me what those next 5 years look like. Those were a bunch of good guys, obviously. They show up all across the playoffs to this day, right? I mean, Lou Williams is out there beating Sixers this year.
Mm-hmm.
But like together, I mean, were they going to come together?
Right. No.
Did they have a cornerstone? I mean, were they a top two seed? No, they had a ceiling. And yeah, so I was like, even, when they lost to the Celtics in 2012, I was like, blow it up. And they did. They didn't mean to, but they did
Yeah.
with Bynum and all that kind of stuff. And then they did it for real.
With
And
impact.
that to me was fine. Now, I will say, um, boy, it got a little bit long there in 15, 16. you know, a pair of 1 in 30 stretches will do that to you. But it did get testing the faithful, I will say.
Ooh.
But anyway, that's all I'll say about the process. That's a whole other podcast. That's like I said, that's another 6 hours we
I
can
think
do
we
at
could
some
go.
other
We could
point.
go on one of those other guys that are strictly like Sixer podcasts, and they could probably do
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Me and Mike and Spike
yes. And
can talk about it.
yeah, the process was definitely something that it definitely tested our patience. But that's why I say like it set us up for when the Eagles finally got to the Super Bowl. And then it almost felt like all that wait wasn't in vain because we had to really earn a team that we could.
Karmically, like right, you're saying like just cosmically as a fan base. Yeah, sure,
Cosmically, because I'm telling
sure,
you,
yeah,
there were too many balls
yeah.
bounced our way that year in 2017 that wasn't supposed to happen. So
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's you need. Yeah, I mean, to win a championship, it's all gotta fall. It's all gotta fall your way.
I
Every tip,
agree with
every whatever. You got to overthrow Julio Jones, and you got to, get those pick sixes, and
yeah,
you need the whole thing.
yeah,
But yeah, so okay, so Sixers. So that was a ramble, but yeah, so Sixers, Eagles, who I do like and follow, and I call myself a follower. I live by a code of fandom that says like I'm not going to show up in an area and live or die just because the diehards, the long sufferings. Like I said, there's a code there.
yeah.
So, but it was what a blast. I mean, I went to the parade. What a blast. it was fun. I've been watching them, so I've been watching them. I obviously, I mean, Gettysburg actually is 100 some miles from Philadelphia, but for whatever reason, we had a Phillies flagship station here, and we get a lot of Eagles games or whatever. When I was 9 or 10, I remember Wilbert Montgomery, Harold Carmichael, Ron Jaworski, Super Bowl, those guys and all that. Um, but I would not pretend to, like I said, it's not my championship. It's not my championship. It's your championship. That's great. Went to the parade to take it all in.
Yes.
But I'm an Eagle follower, and they're definitely the team. And then the Phillies, I enjoyed their run. It was early in our time out here,
Yeah.
so it was fun for them to be good all of a sudden and go through all that sort of stuff and live through the World Series. They're not in the same division as the Pirates. They don't play as much. It's not a rivalry in any sense of the form as it was, 40 years ago. And so I can't. They're playing right now. I'm not even mad if I'm not even mad if the Pirates don't screw up their playoff chances. I'm not even mad at
I was
this point.
shocked.
At
I
this
was
point,
shocked to see that the Phillies won like more than one game. I was like, holy crap.
yeah, I wasn't just because that's a the process is 6 hours. If the process is 6 hours, the history of the Pirates is like 12. So set that aside also. But so the Phillies, they're fun to watch and head down and all there. And the only one, and I'm not the NHL fan that I was 20 years ago. The Penguins were number one for a long time, in my teens and 20s. So there was a pretty good disdain for the Flyers built up, which still comes back. Like I wouldn't get into it too much with Flyer fans, because I haven't. I know the basics and Sidney Crosby and all that kind of stuff. As probably the most hated athlete in Philly,
Oh yeah.
I think.
Still
I
now.
think. I don't think there's quite a cowboy. Romo might have been back, when he was around, maybe. But there's a specific hatred for Sidney Crosby. I
There is
think that really
definitely. I know that much from hockey
that
dumb.
transcends. Yeah.
He's definitely
So
zone in on every time they play on him.
yeah, so the Flyers are dead last, but and then outside of that, you put the Pirates and Sixers up there. Like I said, I don't think the Pirates are ever going to threaten to stress me out, in my final years of life here, which is kind of sad. But if they ever did,
Yeah.
that would that might still be a everybody's got to sit somewhere else situation. Sixer playoff games, Pirate playoff games, that would be about it. But Pirate playoff games are sort of a thought exercise at this point.
I don't know what you would do if it even got to the point where the Sixers were even. Well, I mean, it could come close. I mean, at this point now we've had 2 seasons, 2 or 3 seasons back to back where the Sixers have almost gotten to the NF, the excuse me, um, East Atlantic, I guess playoffs. But I forget their division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would get their division playoffs. They haven't gotten to the conference yet and won yet since 2001. So until we get to that point, we can't even really talk about that yet because right now we're going through yet another Sixers identity crisis, but not as bad as the process because they have core players. They just need consistency and they need a point guard that is reliable. So,
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, this, you know, I'm, you know, I'm, I'm 48 years old. So it's like, I don't react,
yeah.
thank God, I don't react to games the way I did, you know, let's say 25 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, when it was, felt a little bit
With
more
your
life or
health,
death.
it's not with your health. Too many
Right.
people
It's not with your health,
at
but
the same time.
I tell you, like these guys, like I said, there's two situations that can still get a rise out of me, where it's like afterwards, I'm like you're an adult. Like why are you walking around like pondering all this stuff? But it's still, those are that's the remnants. The remnants are that. And sitting through that series was absolutely something. That was,
My
that
brother-in-law.
was a top five, just like
That was like that's the nails on the
horror.
chalkboard type of
Yep.
death. You just come out
Yeah.
like they shouldn't be there. We should be
Yep.
going this long with Atlanta. Like,
Yep. Trey Young, just Trey.
ugh,
And man, when people trash talk my guys, I'm talking to the TV and it's not healthy.
ugh.
Like he can hear me.
Well,
You
especially
know.
I'm sure Joel, out of all of the guys, should be really embarrassed because this is the first time he was literally tuning in mentally the whole year with this squad since he started figuring out how good he can be as a center,
Oh, right. Yeah.
he is, and then to have like you basically getting bitch slapped in game 7 when you should have really been done it in 5.
Well, I mean, all the John Collins stuff.
Oh God, I hate that guy.
I mean, all the John Collins stuff. I mean, what can you say?
I mean,
Like,
but he
you know,
took
you
his
get
head
dunked
out of
on.
it.
What
Yeah,
can you say? I mean, when you've lost and you've
yeah,
lost at home, I mean, it's that's yeah, yes.
yeah.
I
You
mean,
want to take
that's
the victory walk. I get it, but he knows he's lucky because had they not blew that last couple of chances to just end that series quickly,
yeah,
he wouldn't have anything to say. But yeah, so yeah, you're right. Being Phillies 4 for 4 is hard on the heart and the health and the health. So yeah, you're right. Bothly, we're 40 up. We know it's not worth trying to get all mental about it anymore because somehow this stuff seems to come around and right itself at some point. Just never
yeah.
in our favor right away.
And I've been the worst. I mean, I have been the worst in younger days. I mean, I speak from experience. I mean, I would, I have broken stuff,
Yeah,
I
you've been that
mean,
person.
it's, back, way back.
Yeah.
And now it's more just like an incessant stream of talk at the television. Um,
He's like, I
and the
constantly
dogs are in the,
self therapy.
you get a lot of funny looks from the dogs, when you, or I'll just shout out of nowhere and they'll like turn, you know,
Yeah,
and I know they think I'm nuts, but
no, I mean, but it's gotten to the point where I find myself, my mom sometimes when she gets bored with like, as soon as there's bad play, in a game, it doesn't matter what game, she'll be like, oh God, I'm getting up, she'll leave. And I'll be sitting there going, why would you do that? Why would you? And
right,
it's weird because it's like I'm watching Florida State right now and they're sucking, and my sister is an alum and she doesn't have TV right now because they're still kind of getting shipment from moving from her husband retiring from the military. So it's like she
hmm
only just relies on her phone and just checks the score. And she didn't know
right,
anything about football until she went to FSU, and then now she's having to deal with that whole transition of everything she knew as a college student is no longer valid with this current, constant change, and it's frustrating.
right,
You find yourself yelling at the TV more than you normally do because I heard it with my father. That's how I got into sports in the first place. But
yeah,
after the Eagles missed their chance to win the Super Bowl the first time, it's like I realized that my dad was like he was literally exhausted mentally. He was like, I can't give this team anymore.
right,
I'm gonna
right,
die.
right,
So
right,
for him to when my parents divorced and he moved to Florida and then that's when they won the damn thing, he was like, son of a he's like, we gonna win it when I'm gone. And he's one of those
right,
people, he's a purist like Mike. Like now that he's in Tampa, he has to root for the Buccaneers. And of course, lo and behold, that's where Tommy Terrific goes.
yeah,
And he got his damn chip. So I say that to
right,
my dad can die a happy man knowing that at least one of his squads has won a daggone Super Bowl. So but
yeah. I think that's fine. I think
yeah.
that's allowable to set it up that way. When did your sister go to Florida State?
She went because when did I graduated '96, so I think my sister graduated 1995. I think she graduated from Florida State. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, I was there. Well, I wasn't there. I was at UVA for Florida State's first loss in the ACC on a Thursday night in 1995, which
Mm,
is probably a top five, top three live sports memory. I would say, just accidentally happened to be there, but
yeah.
at
My sister
at Virginia,
had her T-shirts that we got religiously when she went to college. Every year, every championship when Bobby Bowden was alive.
they were good. I mean, that was Charlie Ward, I guess, huh? I
Yes,
mean, those guys.
yes, and
Yeah,
it's like
they were really
we
good.
didn't know any of that stuff until she started becoming a fan because she said part of the tuition was they got tickets all the time, so she would go to the games just because her friends went to the games and
Right.
she didn't really care before until they kept winning those championships, especially.
Oh, you couldn't not. I mean, you couldn't not just get
Yeah,
swept up.
yeah. I mean, looking at these kids now, they have total disinterest, but you think they're rooting for their team, knowing that they're never going to win again, probably. They just don't care. Those kids look drunk and high. They don't even care. They're just like, yeah, woohoo. They don't even know So I just know I've become a very anti-Gator person since my sister had become a FSU alum. So it's like I hate everything Miami, in terms of
Right.
but yet Eagles seem to get a lot of Florida State players and sometimes Miami Gator players. So it's like, whatever. If it helps the team now, I don't care. But in general, we don't root for the Gators in this house. We're not allowed.
Right.
So, but yeah. So if you have anything you want to ask me before we wrap, and thank you very much for doing this because 5 questions is
Oh, like I said, you're welcome and honored to sit in the chair here and you know take
yes,
the heat. But
take the heat.
good,
And
good to go. Um, Now, I mean, my question would be something back, similarly, because I'm always fascinated by. I mean, I'm obviously always fascinated by sports fandom, and I thought, if I ever do just sit down and do a podcast of some kind, it wouldn't be takes. Nobody needs to hear what my takes are. They're
Thank you.
always wrong anyway,
Yeah.
right? They're always wrong. But I, and this is kind of like sort of self therapy first, because I think this all the time. We touched on a little bit, like, why does it matter? Why does it matter? Because it's like, yes, like, I have lived enough, seen the world, sort of, what's really important, what's really not. Sports are, at the end of the day, not the things, ultimately that are really matter to
Yeah.
to sort of to human existence, and yet, and yet, everybody, or a lot of so many of us, right? There's something about it that we live and die with, that it matters, that it really, really matters. Otherwise, sane, rational people who know that they're not, what my dad used to say all the time, no one's giving you $10. Why do you care? No one's giving you $10.
Right.
Um, Otherwise, sane, rational people, you know, and I feel like that's the thing to explore with just kind of people that I know
Mm.
are sports fans. And my first memory, I think, of you, not even in the meditation class, was that we had a potluck in honor of the Super Bowl win, right? We had an in honor of the Super Bowl win, and everybody's down there and they're in line, they're getting food and whatever, they're talking at the tables. And the game is, someone puts a replay of the game on to have it up there, and you're sitting there laser focused on the game as though it is live.
Like
And I thought, right, and I thought, I do that.
yeah.
I would totally do that. I would totally watch a game that's already been on. So yeah, and so I guess my question, maybe my first question, is like, what were the galvanizing experiences, I guess, in childhood or whatever, that like brought you to sports fandom? I mean, where were you radicalized as a Philadelphia sports
Well, like I said, if you have a house and it's just you, your dad, and your mom and your sister, and your dad is pretty much the most verbal person in the house, literally, and it's kind of hard when you try to concentrate on studying or whatever, and all you hear is your dad
fan?
going, ah, damn it, and
Okay, okay.
usually that.
Passed down through the generation.
Oh my God! And I, like you said earlier, it's like, why does it matter? But literally, my dad takes it to such a degree that it's like physical pain to like watch a team blow a game.
Yeah, I mean, I understand.
Right? Yeah, and then but then he would be really excited or really when Allen Iverson got that layup, that won a game,
Right,
and it
right,
was like he welcomed in a new child or something. So yeah, it's that emotion alone is basically what makes me go, well, what is the fascination? And so
right,
to this day, I get it more with football than I do with any other sport. But there are times that, especially during the Sixers playoff run, where I totally got it. Like why that was so exciting. Because if you go through
right,
the regime with them, all the 82 games, yeah, you do feel invested as a fan. And so you feel like because you spent your time, whether or not you went to a game or not in person, you feel like they owe it to us to complete this mission because you've gone this long, and who is really
right,
better than you up until you find out that they might possibly be if they have a Kobe Bryant led Laker team. So, but yeah, the investment is the emotional stress and distress you get from being a fan that makes you interested. And I wasn't a true blue from the door. Like I said, like I didn't start really tuning into all that stuff until 2005, just before the first Super Bowl run. And
right.
I know my dad was a
Oh,
huge
okay.
fan from the hated and loved McNabb, and he still was never really big enough fan to say he really appreciated him. He still thinks he doesn't have a lot of heart, so he can't really say that he's like truly a fan. But he understood
Right.
as him rooting for another black man in the NFL at a time when everybody, had kind of stereotyped that black NFL players
Yeah,
weren't
sure.
going to win.
Sure.
So for him to constantly get almost there, and then every playoff game ended in an interception, it's like every reaction my dad had was like, yeah, like pain. So it's almost like if you watch Silver Linings Playbook and you see how De Niro's really, you know, religious about where he sits,
Right.
where he has everything. My dad wasn't that way, but he was always
And I
like,
haven't. I will admit I haven't seen it, but it's only because I'm not a huge movie.
yeah,
There's holes in my movie stuff, but yes, sitting in the same place
sitting in the same
and various
place,
other things. Yep.
eating the remote, don't talk to me,
Yep.
he gets too invested, he'll tell you to shut up. So that's what it was like. And so like I said, that kind of sucks you into what your dad, when you get sick and tired of being in La La Land and gem girls and playing with dolls and you're getting older, you start finding another thing to be invested in. And so that's
Right.
became like a disease to not be into it. So that's why now with me and just my mom, for now, it's like she sees me. I don't have any other conversation besides what I'm watching. And so she tries to get invested until it gets too uncomfortable for her. And then she's like, I can't do this. I can't.
Right.
She'll get up and leave.
Right.
So, yeah, it has passed down like a disease, like a cold.
Isn't that interesting?
It's hard. It's hard not to turn away because as a female, it's even more intriguing that that's all I watch now. Like, I don't watch movies as much as I used to. And I don't, if I feel like a Netflix kind of thing, it's always one thing. And then I go right back to saying, I think I'm going to watch the Super Bowl DVD just for the hell of it. you know?
Right.
So, and especially because the Monday Night Football game is like, I'm trying to get myself hyped because I was trying to go to Chicken and Pete's, but it looks like I won't have access to the car. So I might be home just watching Monday Night Football. And I said, I might try.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right. It's Dallas week.
Chiefs
That's
and
right. It's
Eagles.
Dallas week.
So traditionally, this is going to be like a really exciting game, but knowing that our team is still trying to figure themselves out, it may be one sided very early. But I know that it's one of those things that always takes me back to every Monday Night Football Dallas Eagles matchup. And in McNabb days, it was the most exciting
Oh
national
yeah,
anthem,
sure.
So, but yeah, to answer your question, yeah, that's basically what it is. The emotional give and take that as a fan you literally go through. Seeing it physically invested in my father, it's like, how could you not?
Yeah.
What the hell made him sound like a gunshot? Every time they knew he was like, no, get him.
Oh yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
he would never destroy stuff because Lord knows he was very sensitive about his car and things that he put money in. So
Right.
no way he was going to
I
destroy.
was talking college days, but I was talking college days,
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
pretty
No,
much,
I
pretty
get it.
much college days. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think,
but you would think
you
the
know,
man would want to
certainly.
throw something. He would just be that mad, but he would be just more annoyed, if anything. But
Yeah.
like I said, I do find myself having a physical reaction from time to time. That now that's why I invest in some kind of alcohol while I'm watching it, so that I'm not stressed out. But this
Right.
weekend I have wine, and I'm like praying I don't use it because I don't know. I'm not expecting. I've learned game to game to just take it game to game now because I know that they're dealing with a lot of loose parts. And
That's where they are. I mean, that's where they are in the arc here, right? I mean, that's where they are on this, whatever the plan is.
right,
They're closer to the beginning of it than the end, obviously. Brand new coach and quarterback and all that kind of stuff. So, I
yeah,
mean, you can reload obviously a lot quicker in the
right,
I mean, in the NFL, the Eagles proved that almost better than anybody. I mean,
yeah.
Chip Kelly burned the whole franchise to the ground. And, they won the Super Bowl in like 3 years, so
In 3 years, and
it
it
was a
was
miracle.
with a new coach, and the fact that he's a former quarterback, it almost felt like redemption for him, and then redemption for Nick Foles as
Yeah,
well because he had been on the team before and brought back again, and for him to win for this city was like his way of saying y'all should have never gotten rid of me in the first place. But then you feel horrible for Carson because Carson just seems like he's always in a bad situation, no matter how much hard work he gave into it. It's like
yeah,
it's a shame because now with him being on the Colts, it's like watching him get injured and injured and injured. You just want to be like, just retire, but he's not. I just feel bad for him, but I'm kind of like, well, now I can't really defend you as much as I was before because I'm like,
right. Yeah, sorry. I mean, we got too much going on here. We,
I'm
we can't worry
sorry,
about it. Indianapolis.
we just want to make sure we get our first round pick from you, so you gotta keep playing. So,
Right,
but
right.
yeah, it's kind of sad how that flipped really quickly, and I think that's a popular
Yeah, sure,
in
sure.
the city of us always constantly having to deal with season and then have to deal with so much turnover. So,
Yeah.
constantly mental stress, but then it doesn't have to be because, like you said, it's just too draining as a 40-pluser fan. But I mean, you got legal eagle, diehard fans through and through since the vet days, and they put themselves through the torture, and so
Right.
until we get our Lombardi again, it's like it's just gonna be one of those situations we're just gonna
Right.
have to just breathe through it, harness our chi.
Right. Right. Get mindful.
Get mindful.
Right.
I mean, I'm telling you, that's why I say you and me are
Embrace
not
it.
fond of meditation because Lord knows when you and I both have to go through the stress of watching our sorry but teams go through another season. It's like I'm glad we learned, how to do mindfulness, how to
That's right.
meditate, because that's probably the best part of the whole conversation. Is that it's
Yeah, 95% of the reason I meditate is, to be able to get through my sports fandom.
it does help.
5% work, 4% work, 1% family,
Yeah,
95%,
yeah,
this illness of
it's never
sports
for
that I
me
had.
for work. It's more so like just lifestyle in general because I told you I'm totally like squirrel from Up. They just sit there and just like every
Right.
so for me it's a general lifestyle meditation lifestyle choice, and I think sports is just a lot of it now. And the podcast, like I said, is my next tool to release. And then after that, it's just more like the rest of it might be work, but it's just because who wants to get up and go every damn day? So there are just days you just need a timeout. So, but yeah, no, that's why I'm glad. And like I said, Birds of a Feather came from the premise of a girl always wanting to express her opinion without, the constant trolls coming back at you like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then just make your own thing.
Yeah, and right, and that's right, right, relentless. I mean, it's a horrible, relentless reality of the internet in
Yeah.
2021.
Everyone, I mean, like you said, you don't want to turn into a keyboard, a keyboard Nazi, but at the same time, some people take you there, and that's why one of my pages is gone on Twitter because the political forum got a little too much for me, and I got a little bothered, and so I had to recreate my Twitter page all over again, and
Right. I've done that as well. Yes.
right. So
I've fallen in the hole and had to deactivate.
we went down the hole, and now it's kind of just like, all right, I'm not going through this again. This is not worth it. So
Right.
I've learned that it's become a tool, but you have to be careful how you use it because social media has been obviously a very powerful tool to either hurt you or help you in certain ways if you use it right. So, but
Yep.
that's why I said I brought you to 5 questions because 5 questions has evolved into another panel show called the Link Up, and now it's going to be tomorrow. I'm doing with the guys from Fourth and John, and they are going to answer random questions around the horn. And
Okay.
as you see in the guys one, there's a female one. I'm trying to get my other girlfriends to do it. I just can't seem to get everybody on the same schedule. So
Yeah.
you'll learn a lot
I'll
about
have to check those out. I'll have to
yes,
check those out. I
check
haven't
the
looked at one of those
guys
yet.
and check the girls that I have on there, and then all you or anybody who's watching to AJ Jones channel, the YouTube channel just basically came out of a quarantine state of creation that needed to be
Hmm.
exercised, to
Right.
get rid of boredom and also get rid of just general frustration of not knowing what was going on with this pandemic. And 2021 is shaping up to be that year that you're just going to have to deal with not knowing what the future holds. So, if there's anything that you want to
Again. Yeah.
talk to a friend again, be in a position, use something like this as a tool to help. Talk to people like Matt and talk to people that you always wanted to get to know that you just never really had the opportunity. And it's
Right.
quicker. It's quicker to do
Yep.
over Zoom and stuff. Besides
Yeah.
phone calls, because I'm not a big phone talker that much anymore, which is bad.
Right.
But you know, I don't want to be that person to hang up on you when I get bored. But
No, this has been great. This has been great.
I'm glad you did it because you'll spread the word, and hopefully maybe I can even grab Mona, or somebody else from our group, to do it.
I think she'd be amazing.
I think she would too because I
Yeah.
think
I think she'd be terrific.
questions that I would love to ask her. But
Yeah.
so yeah, thank you for joining 5 questions, Matt. And I definitely feel like there is a lot under that onion we got to peel sports wise. So I'm
Yeah. Like I said, hours and days and
hours and
months.
days, and we can probably compare squads since we're both here today. So I'm fine with hearing about Steelers if you're into them, but because I like their coach, but at the same time I'm like
Yeah, yeah, it's
you know. So
yeah, I should have come along with them because I do remember, the oops,
oh,
oops, hang on a second here. Oh,
time.
10% battery. That's okay
See,
because
there we go.
I'll be
So that's why I
we're
said
wrapping it up here.
we're
So
wrapping it up anyway. But
yeah,
we will be back again with another 5 questions, and hopefully you will all tune in. And thank you, Matt, very much. And we'll be definitely talking on Monday either way through work because we do our
that's right. That's right.
so we will be vibing into the new week coming up, and hopefully Monday Night Football. We can talk about it on Thursday. So, but thank you, Matt, and
Thank
everyone.
you, AJ. Appreciate it. This was
Have
fun.
a good weekend.
You
Take
too.